Small town, only 100,000 people. Those 100,000 people may be different in many ways, but there's one thing that brings them all together: the Green Bay Packers. In Titletown, the blue-collar city only knows hard work, tailgating, championships, but more importantly, they know family.
We have a saying in this town: faith, family, and the Green Bay Packers are all that you need. Sanjay and I grew up in Green Bay. You could say that we are Green Bay, or even better, the voices of Green Bay. We bring a local feel of Packer fandom to a worldwide audience.
Friendship, family, and football.
Ladies and gentlemen,
This is the Freezer Podcast.
What's going on, guys? We are live here for the Freezer Podcast. Give me a little grace here. It's his first time doing this without Sanjay. But Sanjay, I believe, is in what I think his 437th fantasy draft tonight.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Guy's got more equity in fantasy drafts than he probably does his. I'm not going to go there.
I don't think 10's an exaggeration if you were to say 10.
No, I believe it's more than 10. I believe it's
Yeah.
actually something around like 12 to 14. Which is insane, and we let him live in fantasy land. But we're excited to be here. We kind of murmured back and forth about how we're going to do this, if we wanted to do this. As you can tell, tonight, Tuesday night, different than Monday, 8 o'clock, different than 7 o'clock. This will be the new time going forward for us. We kind of switched some things up. We've got a lot of dad duties. We're all dads of multiple kids.
Different ages.
And different ages, a lot of them playing sports and doing different stuff. So we've had to kind of make some maneuvers here. So we will be Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. I hope everybody is able to kind of come over and kind of get assimilated to that. But that being said, you know, we're heading into week 1, dude. We just wrapped up our fantasy draft that we have in our little group. Like I said, Sanjay's on 12, 13, 14. Where's your head at right now? How you doing Tuesday? Post Labor Day, what's the mindset, man?
I'm starting to feel it. I mean, you know, it felt like the preseason, you know, dragged on a little bit there at the end. That 2-week gap after the last preseason game is a little bit much. I kind of wish they'd go back to the old way, but that's it. But it kind of builds the anticipation a little bit. And I have to be honest, like, I watched 2 college football games this last weekend, and one of them was that Colorado game, and that guy that put into overdrive. I'm like, okay, I'm ready for football. That was an exciting game to watch. So I just can't believe we're finally back here, man. It feels like, honestly, like yesterday, like we were wrapping up last season, kind of commiserating about that loss to the Lions, and all of a sudden here we are, Packers, Bears, Soldier Field, you know, opening week of the season. Like, what more do you want? So, you know, it's been an off season of, you know, a lot of change. It's also been an off season of a lot of shit talking between 2 fan bases.
Yeah.
So it feels like something's got to give, you know, this Sunday, and the loser that's going to be going home with the tail between the legs is going to be feeling it a little bit come next week. So I'm ready to go, man. I'm ready to talk about it and get into it this year.
Lots of receipts going out on Twitter and Facebook of people talking some smack, which brings me back to, I'm going to touch on college football and the receipt thing. Deion Sanders, man, tip my hat to him and what he's doing.
Something else.
I don't want to act like I, you know, was one or the other. I had a feeling the guy was going to do it. He just he's got such an energy, man. I mean, he's had that since he played. But I kind of, you know, I agree with the weeks in between, right? You know, going from preseason to here, but it's long, but I liked the full dedication to this weekend being college football. You know, that kind of was a nice little like appetizer into where we're going in life. You know, a couple big games. That Colorado game was obviously everything we thought it was going to be. Badgers win. Yeah, Badgers win a squeaker. There's some big time upsets. Clemson losing. So I mean, I think the whole kind of college football field, right, it's a little weird right now. I mean, we've still got Alabama, we've still got a couple of the big dogs, but to see Clemson kind of fall off, it's shocking.
Yeah,
They were going to I thought they were going to be a 2, 3, maybe 4 decade type dynasty. So, I mean, it is what it is, and that's what it is. But we're here for one reason and one reason only, and that is for the Packers and for this, I would say rivalry, but Matt, is there a rivalry anymore, or the young players not see this?
if rivalry requires some type of like, back and forth, and I think maybe that doesn't qualify for that because it has been dominated by the Packers basically. I mean, Fred, frankly, our entire lives. If you go through the Favre years, I mean, the Bears were pretty bad. Then they kind of got good there, maybe at the end of Favre's reign, towards the start of Rodgers there during the Cutler years, and then kind of trailed off. Had a few years here and there where they played well, but I think really it's just been the Packers. So, they've been doing some interviews with the players this week, in the locker room, talking to them about the rivalry. And I think Rasul Douglas, probably put it best where, he's like, what rivalry? Because he just kind of recapped what we just talked about it being kind of one-sided. But a lot of guys not really maybe knowing much about the rivalry. So I'm interested to see kind of how, the two teams are when they get on the field, because you knew under Aaron Rodgers that the team was going to be aware of the history of these two teams playing each other. And there was always going to be that factor in the game. And we've talked about in the show, in years past, particularly this offseason, about maybe the rivalries, historic stuff kind of getting put in the backseat a little bit because some of those historians aren't on the team like they used to be. So, I just think that, in terms of a week one, we've seen Packers Bears before. But maybe it hasn't meant more than this one. I mean, if you think about it, if you look at the both teams, if the Bears come out and win, the immediate narrative is going to be, the page has been turned. It's a changing of the guard. The Bears are on top now, and the Packers are going to be trying to claw their way back. If the Packers win, the narrative is going to, and if Jordan Love looks good, it's going to be immediately, well, they got another one, happy 15 years of in the dark, and chasing Green Bay again. So like I said before in the opening, something's got to give.
Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, in my old manness, it kind of tugs my heart a little bit because I love the rivalry, right? I love the rivalry within all of the teams, to be honest with you. But to be fair, I mean, yeah, these kids are a lot younger. They don't know the black and blue division as it was in that late 80s, early 90s. They weren't really around necessarily to watch some of those great, Peanut Tillman, Urlacher type defenses that went against Favre and the Jennings and Javon Walker type offenses. I mean, those were electric and a lot of fun and back and forth for a little while. But yeah, I mean, it's been pretty dominant for us for a while. So for them, they don't see it, and that's fine. I mean, that's part of just the growth. It's part of, going through that maturity process, I guess. But you kind of like it. And there is a little something with the young quarterbacks kind of in the new realm, if you will, with Jordan Love and Fields. So, it'd be great. I'm going to say right now that I don't think whatever the outcome is it going to dictate the future of either franchise per se. If anything, I think it would be more dictative for Chicago because of just their ability just to, not ever get over the hump type kind of thing. If they lose bad or it's a late loss and Jordan Love makes a drive, it's just kind of like that big brother kicking you down after year after year. Whereas if we win, to me, it's not going to be like, well, we're going to run Chicago for the next 20 years. I don't think so. I think we're going to see this, be a little bit, potentially closer than we want and maybe share a game or two in season after season. But I mean, as far as just the idea of opening week, two kind of new fresh face quarterbacks, everyone's kind of wondering what's the progression of Justin Fields, who is Jordan Love, and then just kind of the crap talking, and it kind of feels like there's this little bit of revival of the rivalry, and I kind of am excited about it.
That's a really good point because I think that is true. I think there's been an awakening on the Bears side, whether you agree with their awakening or not. I mean, they all feel pretty energized. The team spent a ton of money in this offseason to bring in some pretty high ticket, high price free agents to kind of do a quick fix, if you will. So
a couple of them coming out and saying like, I don't know what Green Bay is. Green Bay sucks. Everybody hates Green Bay. It's like, you don't even know Green Bay. First of all, you probably never even been here. But second of all, like, I think they're feeding that into them, right? They're just like, we're the Super Bowl again. And that's
you
fine.
Can tell. Well, that you can tell the Packers have been on top of this rivalry because they're not the ones talking about how the Packers we can't stand the Bears fans or all this other stuff, all this junk that their players are talking. But they're thinking about the Packers pretty frequently in the offseason, and their coach and their GMs will talk about it when they're hiring on each other. We got to beat the Packers, etc. So I feel like they have a lot more riding on this game. I know it's week one; it's not a must-win, nothing of the sort, but. because of all of that, I feel like them in the city feel like we have to get over on this game. Like if we don't win this game, all that trash talking and money spending didn't mean anything. It's not indicative of the future. It doesn't mean all of a sudden the Packers are going to run, a rough shot at them for the next decade. But at least in the short term, it's like that would be a pretty low blow for them to have to deal with. And I think for the Packers, it's like, we're all like, we don't really know what to expect. Like, I think we acknowledge the Packers could win 10 games. They could win 5 games. We have no idea. So I think a loss or a win against the Bears is, obviously a win's great, but a loss wouldn't be the end of the world. It wouldn't be, oh my God, I can't believe, the Jordan Love-led Packers didn't get over on the first game. So I think that, maybe because of that, the Bears will be playing a little bit tighter than the Packers, and maybe Green Bay on the road can play a little bit looser. I'm not sure, but we've seen that work in the past where going into a game, not having all that added pressure, could help a team start quicker. So to be seen.
You say that a loss, wouldn't be the craziest thing. And then I agree. I think we're all in this comfy little spot of we're just trying to see what things are going, what's happening here. What does it take, right? What does it take for us to lose? Do we lose on our own accord, or what does Chicago have to do to solidify a win against Green Bay?
For them, I think it's got to be the big play. I don't think they can slow play things or try to get into a run game there. I don't believe they have a very strong run offense. Obviously they've invested a little bit more in the receiver. Justin Fields has his legs. So I think for the Bears, they got to be trying to find where they can get some quick scores, catch the Packers napping on a play to get a chunk gain or something of the sort. So if they can pull off some longer plays like that and maybe force a turnover or two to flip the field a few times, I think that's going to bode well for them. That's got to be what they're looking at. Because last year they started both games, I believe they came down and scored in the opening possessions.
Yep. And
someone noted this on Twitter as a good thread on it. And then after that, they kind of went to sleep. So, if Green Bay can, weather that punch, we'll see what happens. But to answer your question, I think the Bears got to be looking at some big play stuff. You can't get in this slog of a game. I don't think with the Packers. I think the Packers have, some good players on both sides of the ball. So the Bears scoring is going to be at a premium. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think for Chicago, they really have to temper who they are, right? And the excitement, because if they're going to come out, they're going to be very emotional. They're going to be very intense. They're going to be very riled up. If they drive down that field and score a touchdown, to be able to control that, right? And not be like, wow, we're doing it. This is it. We're the best team in the world all of a sudden. Like they can't do that. Let the fans do that. The fans by all means are allowed to do that. But the players, I feel like over year after year, and you mentioned the last 2 times coming down and scoring on us and then kind of faltering, they've really got to play a full 4 quarters, and that's going to be important for them. And I think ultimately too, the best way for them to beat us, and I don't think this is any mystery, I'm not, coming out with some hot take here or anything, but the best way for them to beat us is to, when they get into those 3rd down situations, is to kill us with Fields, right? Let him pick up those 3rd and 7s.
Yeah.
Killed our defense. 3rd and 9. Kill our defense, right? Keep us out there. Keep us tired. Our legs are beat. That to me is the number one thing. How that happens is going to be another story, right? So I got a good buddy here from Chicago, not here. I don't let Chicago people in my house, but he talked to me a lot about just the run game. They have a very kind of young, inexperienced run offense. Khalil Herbert is obviously a talent, but yet a more of a I don't want to call it scat back, but kind of like a unique.
He's got that quick
back.
burst kind of, yeah.
Yeah, where they have their rookie in Johnson, who I think is a little bit more of your normal textbook-ish running back. But that being said, outside of that, I mean, they have got some serious offensive line issues, right? The few players that they do have on that offensive line that are actually talented and absolute worthy starters all hurt. The rest of them are a bunch of kind of like, hopefully they can figure it out. So the offensive line is going to be very Swiss cheesy. And I feel like if we're able to put the pressure on early, let Fields make those mistakes while also being able to contain him, right? Maybe put Quay as like a full spy all day on him, and then let the rest of the team kind of go after him. Make him make quick throws, because I don't think he's good when it comes to throwing in pressure. But yeah, I mean, big plays, sure, that sounds good for them, right? But do they make them, right? Do they usually make big plays? I don't know. I mean, that means that DJ Moore is going to have to make a big play on Jair. You know, I know he's our homer guy, so we're always going to think he's going to win. And DJ Moore's a fantastic wide receiver, but can he beat Jair? I know it takes one play. Can he even beat him one play? I don't know. Will he have the time to drop back and actually make a bomb throw? Right, that's the big thing. It's going to have to be something where it's going to be a big yak type play where DJ Moore gets something short, which we've kind of seen in preseason. But yeah, I just, their offense doesn't scare me outside of if Justin Fields is just in the flow of running. Then I think that's scary for anybody.
I think that's the whole thing. If you can just bottle him up and not allow him to have, I know last year we gave up like a 60-yarder against him, a touchdown, and that keeps the crowd in it. Like they're looking for that because that's kind of what his bread and butter is going to be. So it's going to be a lot on gap integrity on the line, not getting out of position. Do you spy him a little bit with Quay? He has some speed laterally. He can probably maybe kind of track him down to a degree, but I think if you limit that and you make him have to drop back and use his arm, that's going to be where you're playing into then the Packers' strengths. And I think ultimately this game can be dominated by Green Bay on the lines. I think that for once, maybe you're starting to look at some actual depth along the defensive line next to Kenny Clark. The Packers like what's going on with Devontae Wyatt. They like what's going on with Slayton and some other guys up there. And then, of course, you got Rashawn Gary back. I know he'll be on a pitch count, but just his presence out there, to work him in with Preston Smith, with Van Ness now, and, of course, Enagbare looking better. That's a good-looking, formidable group of players up front to go against, frankly, a porous Chicago Bears offensive line. And then the other side, I don't think the Bears have much of a pass rush at this moment, but Green Bay
porous defensive line as well.
Absolutely. And the Packers, I think, probably have a top 5 offensive line in the league, and that's maybe their biggest strength on the entire team. So if Green Bay can run the ball effectively, allow Jordan Love to, get into rhythm, and really be able to work the play action game, I think they could run roughshod on them if frankly, if they're getting some guys open, but it all comes down to execution and sort of the flow of the game, and, momentum of course matters. So, what I'd love to see initially is just kind of setting the tone right away. Come out and get a 3 and out or get a stop. Don't let the Bears go right down the field, with that first 15 scripted plays that they love to do with Justin Fields. And put a stop to it. And I think that the biggest misconception about the Packers this offseason that was perpetuated by the media is that they don't have a good roster, that they lost Aaron Rodgers and there's nobody else behind him, and that the rest of the team was just destitute of talent. It's not. They have plenty of great players, not only on defense, but on offense. And I think just all these media types writing them off, that they're just all of a sudden going to be this just basket case of a team. I never quite understood that. And that the Packer players have heard that in the offseason, and they got to be biting at the bit to go prove otherwise to everybody kind of saying that stuff about them.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think that's going to be it's going to be a really emotional, man. It's going to be a lot of hot heads, a lot of trash talking, a lot of moving, a lot of grooving. That the first quarter is going to be wild.
Yeah.
I would imagine the first quarter will be an absolute wild west shootout kind of situation, not points wise, but just the amount of kind of hard hits, maybe late hits, penalties, false starts. It's just people are going to be very, very antsy. They're going to need to draw back. And I hope that's maybe where LaFleur can come in from our side personally and say, before that even happens, this game is not going to be won in the first quarter. Chill out, play it right.
Maybe this is like the perfect kind of game, a reset with 2 really young rosters, a lot of new players to the teams and the rivalry, and you come out and have a really high emotion game, and just one game can kind of reignite, the flames in these types of rivalries. So you never know. Maybe some of these like a hot and spicy first quarter. Next thing you know, man, Packers Bears is must watch TV again.
Yeah, it very well could be that. And you know what? Chicago's defense, to touch on that, right? So their defensive line, weird to say because this is Chicago, but very trashy defensive line. Not a lot of talent. I think their best player is Yannick Ngakoue, but he's kind of a pure pass rusher, and that's pretty much it. And he is very much on the end of his run. I think they signed him solely with the intention of, we just need to get a name in here before our fan base gets more upset. But other than that, I mean, their linebacking trio, I think is fantastic. And I say that only because 2 of them are Wisconsin guys, and I follow them pretty pretty closely, but like
Painfully playing for the Bears.
yeah, Jack Sanborn is one of my absolute favorite linebackers. Just a classic, talk about black and blue division thumping type linebacker. TJ Edwards, obviously same type of thing, and then bringing over Tremaine Edwards. That's a really good linebacking core. And then even their secondary, I think, is actually pretty good with Brisker. I love Jalen Johnson, Eddie Jackson, and then they brought in what's his name? The other corner from the U, right? A Miami kid. They've done pretty well with Miami kids in Chicago. So I'm sure Iowa Joe will throw out his name here in a second. But so I mean their linebacking core and secondary is pretty tough. So for us, I feel like offensively, is it an attack via run, or do we let Jordan Love throw it a little bit, right? I think ultimately, and I would say this just from what I've seen in the preseason, it's going to be very mild offense, right? I wouldn't expect him to come out and try to, do what we did last year and throw a 70-yard bomb to Christian Watson on the first play. Now, if they try to, okay. If they say that, I will be very happy, very excited. I will be the first one to jump up and be excited about it. But I would very much expect that this offense is now I'm not going to say the word vanilla because it's not going to be vanilla, but you're going to see a little bit more run, a little bit more underneath, and let's see what the playmakers can do, right? Yes, thank you, Iowa Joe, Tyreek Stevenson. And that's kind of what I expect. And I think that bodes in our favor, right? Because if we don't have to get into that secondary, that's probably better. I'd rather beat that first part of that line, that front seven, and then let their linebackers figure it out. But yeah, I mean, I what do you think?
Well, I'm going to be interested to see how the Bears want to defend Green Bay, because I think the obvious thing is to run the ball. You have a great offensive line. You have two really good running backs, and I loved what Emmanuel Wilson did in the preseason. I know he probably won't get a lot of touches, but I digress. The two guys we have here, Dillon and Jones, man, I think you got to rely heavily on them. And to your point, I don't think LaFleur wants to make Jordan Love come out and put all of it on his shoulders and go, hey, go win us this game, your first start. Everybody in the country's watching. But if I think they'll do a mix of testing him deep, but I just think that, to start, I'd probably try to establish the run and see what goes from there.
Well, and everybody's going to be microscoping the situation, right? If you throw them out there and you say, hey, we want you to chuck it 48 times, that's going to look bad. It's not going to be successful, and it's going to be a confidence killer. And I think what their plan is for the season, and I'm not crazy for thinking it, is going to be a slow roll. Let's get him going. And then once the confidence goes and he's feeling it, then let him, unleash the hounds, if you will. And that's not to say that they're going to let him, make him, go Jimmy Garoppolo and throw it 8 times. But I think it's going to be, we're talking like 20, 25 throws maybe. And they're going to be a little bit, more high percentage throws. Now I say so. That, and that's building. Us, right? So I'm me in my Appleton house. Is that what everyone's thinking, right? So do they say, hey, actually the game plan, what we're going to do is, I'm sure Chicago's expecting us to run it and play underneath. Do we go over the top and try to catch them off guard a little bit with Watson's speed and Reed's speed? I mean,
the counter argument is, he's been marinating in this offense for 3 years. We don't need to roll him out on game 1 at the training wheels. Let him go out there and start spraying it. So I totally get both sides of it. I just think, the big thing to me is, can the defense play complementary football in the first quarter? Because if they come out and they let the Bears go score once or twice and we're in the hole by a score or two, well, now it changes the entire complexion of the game. And now Jordan Love is going to have to drop back more than maybe they want to. So I think that's going to be key to the start of the game, is allowing him, affording him the opportunity to get the run going and get started on the offensive or the passing game without having to do so 10 or 14 in the hole.
Oh man, I hope we don't have to go down. I hope we don't have to. I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things. And the weird thing too is, like, a fan, and just who we are. Like, the last thing you want is for him to maybe have a subpar game, a loss to Chicago, because the narrative then just turns into, he's the worst quarterback ever. Why did you trade? It's gonna turn nauseating to be watching anything or even on Twitter after that. And a loss on its own is fair. I'll take the Chicago guys, getting all pissy and talking shit. It's just the
how
fact
you
that everyone
lose.
will write off Jordan Love, and that will be ridiculous.
And he's
Whereas
gonna have
if
to
he
fight that
wins,
all year long, which
he
is
is. I mean,
fair or
every loss
unfair.
is going to be like that, and that's going to be interesting. But
Yeah.
all right, what about you got any other comments for the game? I know we're going to make this a little bit short of a show, but do you have any other comments?
No, I have nothing else to add to it. I mean, nothing that we haven't discussed in the past or haven't discussed on other shows everyone's watched. I'm just thrilled, man, that we're back here doing this. I'm excited it's week 1 again, and just embrace this weekend, and everybody buckle up. It's going to be a fun season.
Let's talk about a couple other games really quick, because there are some really other good games in week 1. I mean, I think it's Cincinnati, Cleveland. I think is a pretty decent AFC game. I know Cleveland, for me, is kind of a sleeper team. I think
I was just gonna say they're flying real under the radar.
Yeah, super talented. I mean, it's easy to fly under the radar when you've got Pervy McPervstein, but
I think people are purposely not paying attention to them.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to blacklist the situation, but it's like, okay, it is what it is. Like, I'm not saying he should be forgiven for all his things, but the fact of the matter is, I mean, that's still a very good team, and I think there's a lot of talent on that team. Granted, they are in a very difficult division. I think Pittsburgh will be a little bit stronger. Baltimore's obviously not rolling over anytime soon. And then Cincinnati obviously is super good as well. That I think will be it's a very good division. And it's been that way for a very long time. I can't remember a time when one or two of those teams haven't been great, whether it was Baltimore Steelers or now Cincinnati and Baltimore before. Then it was, so a lot of things. Another really good game I'm excited for, Dolphins and Chargers. Dolphins are another team I feel like, Tua is healthy. The talent on that team with that defense, Vic Fangio, I think that's a really solid team that could do really well in a little bit of a kind of a tougher division, but not a crazy tough division. Chargers, obviously, they're that one team that never makes any sense to me. Best looking team every year on paper. They've got the stud quarterback who threw for 9 million yards last year. They always have a bevy of talent, probably the best uniforms ever. And yet they always fall short for some reason. Doesn't help that they're in the hardest division without a doubt in the NFL.
Oh yeah.
With KC, I mean, the Raiders being where they've been for the last couple of years, and I wouldn't totally sleep on them. And then Denver, I think, absolutely makes a resurgence coming into this year. There's no way they can be as bad as they were last year. So they're one that I'm definitely super kind of interested to see. And then I'll quickly touch on the last one, which I think is, if you're on this show, I guarantee it's on your calendar. Monday night, Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, weird, against the Bills, right? Welcome to your season, Mr. Jet. You don't get the Chicago Bears anymore. Your first week, you get the Buffalo Bills.
Josh Allen and the Bills, yeah.
Then you get a couple more. So it's gonna be a little bit different. What is your thought process going into watching that game on a couple levels? One, I'm weird, so I have this it's almost like a heart flutter feeling of it, right? Like I don't want to watch it, I'm like this 15-year-old girl who's pissed off because I have this fear of he's gonna just go out and throw for 420 and be just immaculate, and I'm gonna just be like, it's all going to depend on Sunday, right? It's all going to depend on what we do, right? If we go into Chicago and we pull off a 35-20 win and we're confident Jordan Love plays decent, I'll watch that game with a big old smile and a big old beer.
Yep.
If we lose that game and I got to go watch him go beat Josh Allen and the Bills, and then it turns into, what's going to happen? The narrative's going to get out of control. That's really difficult. And I love the game of football, genuinely love the game of football with everything I have. I don't like watching football games where I just have this bitter anger against a player, and I will have sort of this watch it with this kind of pissy attitude. And I don't want to. I want to watch the game and enjoy the game of football. And I just don't know if I'm quite ready for that. And maybe I got some problems, but man, it sure feels like I kind of just in the back of my head, I'm really rooting for him to kind of suffer a couple games here, and then we can go on.
Okay. When you said it depends on Sunday, I think that is 95% of it. If we win and beat, exactly 99%. If we win that game, I don't care if he comes out and throws for 6. It sets a
Yep.
Jets franchise record for yards and touchdowns,
Well, which
whatever.
would be hard. It'd be like 4
Yeah,
touchdowns.
exactly. But I'm like you, man. You know, like I've kind of rode the roller coaster with how I feel about him this offseason and some of the things maybe said as we approach training camp and just maybe the overall attitude towards stuff and then watching Hard Knocks and just seeing how glorified he was and it just kind of put maybe just a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth. So
yeah, it's
so I will echo those sentiments that maybe a couple of losses to start the year, slices of humble pie for that team because they're definitely feeling the confidence, feeling the mojo, you know, hearing some of the outside noise about how, you know, their expectations are. So they do have a gauntlet of a schedule to start the year.
Absolutely.
I think I don't know if anyone has a tougher one. They kind of touch on all some of the big wigs in the NFL. So you're going to find out real quick just how for real the Jets are because they're not going to go through, you know, the first month having to just kind of tap dance against some lesser opponents. No. They're going to get tested immediately. So I'm very, very curious to see that first game because I've been a critic of Rodgers. I've said he's afraid of change. He doesn't embrace it. He's so particular that it's tough to change. So just so curious to see how the Jets look. And as someone said before, you know, when's his first tantrum? I can't wait for those sideline pans for him, you know, kind of doing the head bob where he's kind of cursing at somebody for, you know, running a 10-yard route, 9 yards deep, you know, something like that. So I'll be definitely watching. Yeah, that comment right there by Iowa Joe. Can't wait.
Yeah, I mean, let's be real. Like they're gonna be again, it's week 1, high emotion. By all accounts, you would expect him. It's Monday night. Aaron's gonna deliver. He's not gonna.
That's why we feel bad about it because deep down inside, we just know he's gonna show up and just kill him.
And deep down, I love the guy. I always will. It's not a bloody divorce, if you will, but that doesn't mean that
it still was. He didn't want to be here, and it's like you didn't want to be here, so I don't want you to do well. Then
absolutely,
go somewhere else be miserable.
Yeah, and just kind of deal with that part of it. Yeah, it's such a weird feeling because I don't want him to win. I don't want him to win at all. You know, I'd rather be the guy.
We shouldn't want them to win. Better draft pick we get.
Yeah, so I don't know. That one's obviously very strange and will be very interesting. But yeah, Sunday night or Sunday will 100% depict whether or not I even watch that game. Probably.
Yeah, let's be real.
Because if we lose bad, I mean, I might
not even watch football at all.
I'm going black hole for a couple days because I'm not going to want to watch Twitter. I'm not going to want to watch any NFL Network stuff because you're going to just get people slobbing everywhere over
which would make next Tuesday's show hilarious.
Yeah, it will be just be delightful.
Well, let's get some predictions here, huh?
Let's run predictions and then we'll bow out. So, Sanjay never sent us one, which
he didn't.
How weak sauce. Nor have I even seen him make a comment on this. So that's kind of bull crap. Thank you, Anita, for reminding us that we all are faithful. I don't remember. I wish Sanjay would have sent in a prediction. But all right, what do you got?
Well, I'm going to harken back to how we thought the Packers would win this game. And I just think that they're going to lean into their strengths and run the ball and control the clock, control the possessions. You know, I do think that it'll be a high emotion game. I fully expect the Bears to come out on fire and maybe score first, if not twice before we score again. But, you know, under LaFleur, Green Bay's kind of never really hit the panic button for the most part. So, you know, I think that they'll be in this game for the long haul. But I don't think it's going to be a very high scoring game. I think probably first team to hit 20 or so probably wins the game. Yeah. So I think what I'm thinking here is like 24. I'm going to go like 24-17 Green Bay, maybe 24-20. 24-17. I'm going to lock that one in.
Yeah. So it's funny just because the whole time we were talking, I kept thinking like 27. 27 is kind of where I think. And then I thought, it feels a little high, maybe 24. So I was going to go in that 24. What did you say? 17?
I said 24-17. Yeah.
So I was thinking 24-20. But I'm going to give us a little bit more space and I'm going to go 24-14. Packers win.
Packers win,
Yeah.
Bears cry and lose.
Bears go back to what they do, and you know, I would say, hey, if you
Well-
are a Packer fan, if anyone's listening and you are a Packer fan, and you are going to Soldier Field, God bless you. It's going to be, I would think, probably one of the more scarier times to probably go into Chicago outside of like NFC Championship 2010 type era, because they are feeling 100% like this is the changing of the guard, and they will be very brokenhearted if Jordan Love comes in there and has managed to own the game against them. So Godspeed if you're doing it, man.
Yeah,
I will be
plan on
watching
leaving
the
early.
game with a legit Bears fan. Why? Because I don't know. Maybe I love
Why not?
pain.
Why not?
Maybe I'll, if we're winning, it'd be fun to shove in their face. I don't watch games, right? With many people, I keep it.
Yeah, it's
pretty-
select group.
I do me, and then maybe you guys. And that's pretty much about it. I don't like, just I got to be in my own mindset. So this will be interesting. So, that being said, I mean, we've got 2 wins here. I know Sanjay picked us to win, didn't give us a prediction. Sunday, football back. Go to church, get done with church, lock
Say
it
your
in.
prayers.
Sweat. Okay, temperatures dropping, sweaties are coming out.
Yep.
Get that chili, get that cold beer, get the cheese curds ready to rock.
Sunday yet? Is it Sunday yet?
It's that time of year, ladies and gentlemen, where it's football season, baby.
It's
I
time.
can't
Let's
wait.
do it.
I'm Fred. This is weird. I never close out either. I've never had to do this before. I'm Fred, Freezer Podcast. Hi, how you doing? This is Matt. We're
Yo.
getting into week 1, baby. I can't wait. Go.
It'll be a trio next
Pack.
week.
Yes, and we're coming back Tuesday, 8 p.m.
At 8.
Switching it up. Be ready. Set your alarms.
Breaking down that
We will
dub.
see you next week to hopefully talk about a Packers win. With that being said, I'll do it again.
Go.
I'm Fred. That's Matt. Go Pack.
Go.